Okay, got it. Hi, everyone. Oh, I see a lot of people that aren't usually here. We have 57 people. That's awesome. Okay, so our guest tonight, our guest speaker tonight is Hazel Meredith, and she has a very long bio, so I don't think I should read it all, but she's an award-winning photographer. She teaches, she's a speaker, she's a competition judge. She does seminars, teaches at camera clubs and conferences. She does ebooks. She has a lot of presentations that she does to camera clubs, so maybe we can get her to come back. Besides this creativity with your smartphone, she has working with textures and overlays, creativity with textures, alternative visual artistry, um, unleash your creativity with Topaz Studio, HDR imaging, and much more. So if you want to know more, just look at the email I sent out, and I'm sure Hazel will talk a little bit more about herself and what all she does. And welcome, Hazel. We're thrilled you're here. Take it away.
Thank you, Roberta. Thank you, Donna. Glad to be with everybody tonight. Thanks for joining me. This is a pretty good sized group. I think it's one of the larger ones that I've done in a while. So tonight we are going to be doing smartphone photography. I like to call it that because some of the apps I'm going to be using are also available for Android, and I'll point those out as I go along. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm also going to turn my camera off while I'm presenting because you're just going to see me staring at my iPad. So let me start by sharing my screen. And I'm going to just pop up. This is the list of apps that I'm going to be doing tonight, and I'm going to use a few of the Gypsy Pics ones. And so I'm going to send this to Roberta. Oh, bless you. To Roberta after we're done tonight, along with a sheet of all my contact info and some of the things I have going on and affiliate links and all that kind of good stuff that they can distribute out. And so with that, let me first turn off my video. And I'm turn on my iPad because I'm going to be working on my iPad. It gives it a little bigger view than using my cell phone. Let me move my keyboard out of the way so I can work. So I do have an app that lets me mirror my iPad. And come on. Give it a second. All right. Come on. Yeah, it worked before. It takes a second to come up. So let me close that, close that. There it is. It's hiding back there. All right. Perfect. So with that, let's see. There we go. So now you can see I'm trying to, usually it gives me a black background. It makes it a little bit easier to see. Let me just open up. Sorry, I just want to make it easier for you to see and not on my busy desktop back here. Let's see if I put this up and move this over. That might be a little better. Alrighty. Oh. Let me turn the volume off on my iPad or I'm going to get feedback. There we go. Okay, I think we're set. Grab a stylus. So like I said, we're going to work with a bunch of different apps tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and get rolling. So the first thing I'm going to work with is I'm going to open up an image in, move my notes here, in Snapseed. So we're going to start with Snapseed, and this is one of my favorites. This is not the image I'm going to work with. I was playing around earlier, so I'm going to go to my device, and I have an album with some images to make it easier to find them. And we're going to start with this lone tree, and this was taken out the side window of the car with my iPhone going, my husband was driving in this instance, somewhere in Virginia, in one of our many trips back and forth from Connecticut to Tennessee when we were looking for land and all that fun stuff. By the way, too, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them as I go along. I welcome questions as we go. So with this one, I'm going to start with, I keep wanting to grab my mouse out of habit. I'm going to go into tools and actually first, sorry, let's go into looks. So in here, they do have some presets that you can use. And this one, I like to use this morning preset, and that kind of gets me started on the path that I think I want to go with this image. A lot of times when I'm doing creative editing, I kind of have a feeling for the way I think I want to go with an image. And then sometimes you come across something, you know, a preset or a filter or a texture, and you go, oh, I kind of like that. And you end up in a different direction. We're going to start with this one. And then we're going to go into tools, and this lets you do a whole lot of different things in here. And I know you can't see what I'm hitting with my stylus, so I'll try and point things out as we go along. And I like to start with Tune Image, and that's the upper left one here. And to work with this one, you're going to go to the bottom and hit Adjust, and it's going to give you a list of all of the things that you can adjust in this image. So once you choose one, like with, if I choose, I don't need to choose brightness, we're going to go right to contrast. And then you just move either your finger or a stylus left to right. And if you look at the very top, you see that blue bar, and that's what lets you know what you're doing with this image. I'm going to just a little bit of contrast. I'm going to go back to that slider, go up to saturation. We're going to add just a little bit of saturation, a little bit of ambiance. And then highlights, I'm going to bring down. I'm going to go way down to about 50. And then I'm going to add a little bit more warmth. And go there. And I also am going to go, I'm going to accept that. So in the lower right is a check mark. That will accept those changes. And then you can go back into tools if you want to do other things. And I'm going to click on the rotate because I'm going to straighten this just a little bit. And I'm just going to use multiple fingers on the screen. And sometimes this one is a little bit of a pain. You can also do this in various programs. We're going to see if this is going to let me do it today. Sometimes it works and sometimes I don't seem to have luck with this one. So let's see if we can do this with the, there we go. If we use the stylus, if you look up at the top, this one also has a blue slider. So I can do it that way. And that makes it a whole lot easier. And we'll hit the check mark to accept that. So I'm going to save this at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and hit export in the lower right. And I always save a copy. I never save over my originals. And that's going to add it back to your photo library. And then I'm going to bring this into my absolute favorite program on the iPhone or iPad. And by the way, Snapseed is available both for Apple and Android, and it's a free program, and it's a very powerful program. This next one, Distressed Effects, is only available for Apple. And you'll see on my screen here on the second row, I have two versions of Distressed Effects. I have this green one, the second one on the right. That's the original Distressed Effects program. And with that one, it sells for, I believe it's $2.99 now. And if you wanted to buy additional packs of textures or overlays or birds, then it's 99 cents a piece. If you get the Distressed Effects Plus, which came out a few years ago, that one is selling for $11.99. It's a one-time price, and you get new packs when they're released for free. So considering that there's over 30 different packs of textures, overlays, birds, trees, all kinds of things, and she actually just added a couple last week. If you don't have one of these programs, that one's definitely the way to go if you really like working with textures like I do. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And that's just a default image that opens with the program. So I'm going to come to the upper left and click on the camera, choose photo. And here's the one, the top left one is the one we just edited. So I'm just going to hit the check mark to accept that one. And then in here, if you look at the bottom, we have 2 rows of textures. Basically, the top row is more like color overlays. The bottom row is the more textured type. And if you come way over to the right, you'll see where it says switch pack. So in the top row, I'm going to click on switch pack, and you can see all of the different things that are in here. Just kind of scroll through. This one has not as many as the bottom row does, but there's still quite a few. And I'm going to use this Beyond Skies. So that top row now changed. And I'm going to choose the one called Fury. And then we can make adjustments because that's a little too dark. So if you hit on the right hand side, just above that, the little slider icon, this one in here lets you adjust the opacity of that texture. You can see it's getting lighter and darker as I move that. So I'm going to come back about there. And then the 3 that are surrounding the image, those control the entire image, not just the texture. So on the left, you have brightness, on the bottom is saturation, and on the right is contrast. So if you change those, just know that that's changing the entire image. So I usually like to get that stuff where I want it, whether it's in Snapseed or something else, before I come in here, so I don't have to mess with those here. Then I'm just going to click the X to close that control. And on the bottom row, we're going to come over here to the right. Again, we have the switch pack. And you also notice that there's a custom one, and that only shows up on this original pack when it's loaded, but that will also let you bring in your own texture, which we're going to do later on. So first I'm going to click on the switch pack, and I'm going to go to this dramatic palette is one of the new ones, and that's what I haven't even downloaded it on my iPad yet. So if I click on buy, it says 0, and that you just have to do that the first time you use a pack, and then it'll download and it'll be available in here. And I'm going to go down to Sky Beauty and choose no. And that one just added a little more drama to this sky that we already had. Now, the other thing, if we wanted to try one of our own instead of using one in here, I could go back to switch pack and go back to the original one, and then I'll get back that custom slider. I'm going to go into my album, and I'm going to add this pink texture as one that of my own. And then you can also change blending modes, both on the ones that are in there and your own. There's not as many blending modes available as there are in Photoshop, because these are the ones you're going to use most of the time with textures anyway. So I'm going to leave that at multiply. Oops. Hit the X, and then I'm going to hit the sliders, and then I'm going to bring back that opacity of it to about there. And then you can always fine tune the first one as well. And then the other thing this program has, it does have an erase or cloning feature, this second icon here. And the third one is the bird icon. And that has different packs of birds. So we have the original birds. This is the other new one just added, the with wings. I'm going to use this by the wire, and I'm going to choose Harvest Flock. And then you can move it around, and you can use your fingers to just pinch and change size. And I'm going to make these look like they're coming out of the tree. And there you have it. So you can, play around, get all kinds of looks. I just absolutely love this program. This gal is actually based in Tennessee as well. And she has created this. It's been a while since I've had this program. So the other thing you can do is sometimes you want to add another texture. So if I came back to either one of these rows at the bottom and chose something else, it would replace the one that's there. The way I used to do this was to save this file and then bring that one back in as the new file to work with. But there's a new feature. If you just press in the middle of the photo with your finger, you'll get this pop up, and you can flatten this image and then add another texture. So you do want to make sure you don't want to make any changes to those layers. And then we're going to choose flatten. Now this is our base photo, so we could add anything we want from these two rows again. So I'm going to choose, I'm going to switch a pack. I'm going to go to obscure and use chaos. And I'm going to lower that opacity to about there. So if you want to kind of grunge it up, these have, you know, that kind of grunge feature to them. And there you have it.
Hazel, can you say again what app you're using? I know you said it's only for iPhones, right?
Yes, this is Distressed FX Plus.
Okay.
So the
And
plus
is there
one
anything, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is there anything like that for Androids?
There is not, unfortunately. My husband has an Android and he is always jealous of this app. We haven't been able to find anything comparable with, you know, textures like this. There's lots of creative apps, and I'm going to show you a few later on from Gypsy Pics that can do similar things, not exactly the same, but they can give you a lot of really good creative options. So I'll be showing you those in a little bit. And those are almost all of those, other than one or two, are available for Androids. And they have like 14 or 15 different apps that all do something different. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. So now I would go ahead and save this one. So in the upper right, we hit the up arrow and then the down arrow. And you can also share it to their Instagram if you wish. And that also saves as a copy. It does not save over your original. So that would be this one. And then what I like to do with my images, if I'm going to put these on Facebook or social media, is I like to add my watermark. And there are programs that are for adding watermarks, but I found Image Blender to be even easier than any of those programs. So that one is this red icon in the middle here, Image Blender. And this is designed to blend two images. It doesn't have to be a watermark. It can be any two images, and you can do a lot of cool stuff that way. So when you open it, it opens to this clean slate. In the bottom two corners, you'll see two gray squares. So when you can see it just popped up there. The left one is going to be my background layer. And then the right one, I will select what I want in the foreground. So first I'm going to choose my background. I'm going to go to my photos. And there's the one we just completed. And then I'm going to click on the right side, go to photos. I'm going to go to my album because I know where it is. I'm going to choose my logo. And this is a PNG file, so it has a transparent background. And the way I would, obviously that's much too large. So at the top, we're going to hit the plus sign with the little arrows there. And that's going to let us resize it. And I'm just going to use my two fingers and make it the size I want. Put it, you know, whichever side you decide you want it on. I might go this way. And once you have it in position, you're going to hit save. And then this dot at the center bottom is your controls the opacity of that top layer. So you can see as I go this way, that's 100%. So I usually do like around 75 or so, depending on the image, 70 to 75. And that would be it. So then we'd again hit in the upper right, the up icon, save to photos. And then it asks you if when you reopen this program, if you want to have that clean project. And I always say yes, because I don't need to come back to this image again. And then it will just give you that clean slate for when you start again. So that's a really simple way I find to add a watermark. And I do that on, like I said, if I know I'm going to post it on social media, which I do with a lot of these types of images when I'm doing them on my phone. All right, so next we're going to use, there's a great program for cloning and healing and getting rid of power lines, and it's called Retouch. It's my second row, second from the left, the little green pencil. I'm going to open this one up. It used to be called Touch Retouch. And that's why when I send you this list I'm going to send you is handy, because there are other products that are similar that have the same name, but the icon will make sure that you get the right one. This one sells, oh, I meant to say Image Blender is also Apple only, and that one sells for $3.99. Retouch is available both Apple and Android, and it's $1.99. So most of these are pretty inexpensive. Oh, looks like they had an upgrade. Okay. So from here, I'm going to choose my image. So I'm going to click on Select Photo, and they changed this layout a little bit. I want to get to my, there we go. So in here are the album names. It's very faint, but that's my iPhoneography album. And I'm going to use this yellow set of straw flowers. So there's a few things I'd like to get rid of in here. So at the bottom, and I know these are probably a little hard to see, there's 4 icons. The left one is objects. Then we have lines, meshes, that's new, and clone stamp. So I'm going to start with object removal. And then when you come in here, you have brush, lasso, eraser, and then there's some other settings. So I'm going to start with the brush, and I want to get rid of this flower that's over on the right-hand side. And I'm just using, you know, it's a pen that has, you know, the rubber tip on the edge. It's not my eye pencil. So I just circled that whole thing and it's gone. And then we can work on the stem. And then we can get pretty close to the petals. And I know I'm going to be doing lots of things in here, so I don't have to be super particular, but I want to get as much of that as I can. And then we're going to try and come in here a little bit. And sometimes, like with Photoshop, you might get something a little weird going on. So we'll try and get rid of that. There we go. That will do it for now. It's not quite perfect, but it will do. And then you also have under, so we go back. We used to have one called Quick Repair. Apparently now they've changed that to, let's see what meshes has, because I haven't seen this one yet. Oh, if you have fences, oh, that could be cool. That's pretty neat. I'll have to try that. It's a new one. So let's look at the clone stamp. So if we wanted to touch this up a little more, we can, let's try choosing here. And on tap for more options. Classics. Okay, they've changed this a little bit too. I'm going to have to investigate some of this. So I think if we select from there and then we choose there, I'm going to have to figure this one out. They've changed it on me. Love when they do that. Upgrades are great, and then you got to figure them out, right? Just like Photoshop. All right, so we're going to go back over here for now. And oh, I did want to also get rid of this leaf down here. So it does a really good job with that. And then I did, do we still have the, no, we don't have that quick repair. So I'm going to use the objects again. And I just, it has this weird color along the edge here. And we're just going to get rid of that. And voila. So it does a pretty good job with a lot of things. Some of the small details you got to work a little bit harder with. So I'm going to go ahead and save this now. So we're going to do the up arrow. And we're going to save as a copy. It's been saved. So now we can exit here. Now we're going to go back to our Snapseed. And we're going to open. And let's see if it'll bring me to the right one. It did. So it opened the latest image I just saved. I'm going to go into the presets and choose pop. And it's giving it a little bit, you know, that HDR kind of a look, because I'm going for a grungy look. So we're going to go with that. Hit the check mark. We're going to go into tools. I'm going to go to my crop tool. And I wanted to now crop a little bit over here and a little bit from the top. So, okay. And then we're going to go into our tuning. And I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, a little bit of ambiance. And then we're going to bring the highlights down. And now hit the check mark. And then we're going to export, save a copy. My page. So now we're going to go into our image blender. And we're going to open up that flower. It should be this last one. And I'm going to use this now to add a texture to my image. So I'm going to click on that bottom right, go to my photos, my album. And I'm going to add this paper with some writing on it. This is a piece of scrapbook paper that I photographed. I'm going to move this slider to about 40%. And we're going to click at the top, the two intersecting little icons to get our blending modes. And we're going to change this to soft light. And so now we've blended our texture with our image. Now I want to flatten this and then add my watermark. We might as well do that while we're here anyway. So we're going to save this again. And now I can flatten this. Let's see. Oh, I just want to flatten it. So now that will become our left image. And you can see there's nothing on the right. So we can click on there to choose our watermark. And then we're going to hit our, resize this, move it down, save it, and then we'll adjust our opacity.
Meredith, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Do you ever, with your iPhone using, I think it's my Lightroom Mobile or one of them, I can't remember which now, shoot in RAW? And if you do all of these apps handle images the same? Can they handle, excuse me, RAW images, or is it only JPEG?
That's a good question. I think most of them can handle RAW files. I have only used the Lightroom Mobile a few times. I actually used to demonstrate that, and it's like I find I can get to where I want to be editing quicker in other apps than I can in the Lightroom. I'm not that fond of the Adobe camera apps. I love them on the computer, but I just find them, I don't know, maybe I need to practice more, but I find them a little more cumbersome on my phone.
I think with the Lightroom Mobile, I mean, and I'm not talking as much about editing in Lightroom Mobile as much as you're able to shoot in RAW as opposed to just a JPEG, and then take your RAW image into one of these other apps.
You're right. I typically don't. When I'm shooting with my phone, I'll use the native camera. I have a couple of other cameras I can show you that I use, like one does HDR, you know, it'll merge it 3 shots in the camera kind of thing, and some other things. So I typically don't do that, but I do know a lot of people who do like the RAW feature in the Lightroom.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's a good question. Thank you.
I was going to add that I shoot in RAW on my Android, and
Mhm.
Snapseed does open the RAW,
Oh, it
and it
does?
gives you extra editing features to handle the
Okay.
RAW.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
you can definitely use Snapseed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Snapseed is great. I think it's one of the best ones out there for the basic editing. Although I find sometimes I will even just use the edit, the regular Apple edit, app that's on the phone itself. And that does a really good job too. But I do use Snapseed probably 80% of the time. So, all right. So from here, I think I saved
I've
this.
got a
but let's
quick
make sure.
question
Sure.
too.
No problem.
All of these files that you bring in or pictures, are they pictures that are stored on your phone and your iPad?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
So
all
if
right.
like this one, because I'm using a couple of different apps, I've got several versions of it. So
Yeah.
you can always go in and like the first version, from Snapseed, if you don't need that one anymore, you can always delete that and just keep the final edit, your original and your final. You don't need to save all of these
So-
versions, but they
So
do
when
save
you
to your
brought
phone.
in, yeah, when you brought in the background on the straw picture, and even when you bring your watermark, you took a picture of that then that you store on your iPhone?
No, what I did was I emailed it to myself from my computer because it's a PNG file.
Okay.
And then I downloaded it to my phone and saved it to my photos.
Okay.
From my email, I saved it into my
From
phone.
your email to you emailed
Yeah.
it to your phone.
Yep.
Or dropped it or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So because I wanted that PNG because I don't want a white background. I need that transparent background for the watermark. So I wanted to make sure. So if I took a picture of it, it wouldn't have that transparency.
It wouldn't have a PNG, right?
Right. It would be a JPEG and it wouldn't work.
Yep, exactly. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Good questions. Thank you. Some groups have lots of questions, which I love, and some groups are very quiet depending on the programs and the people, but I think that they're all great questions, so keep them coming. And I just opened the chat box because I saw a couple things in there. I think we answered those about the distressed effects. All right, so I think I saved this, but we're going to save it again just in case. So that would be done. Yes, I would start over on a different program. And we're going to do one more thing to this image. We're going to go to another pretty cool app that has a lot of texture features. This is also Apple only. It's called Mextures. So like textures, but with an M. And it's this little mountain looking one over on the left. This one is $1.99 in the Apple Store. So this one gives you, again, lots of different ways you can edit your photos. So I'm going to go to my library and I'm going to pick this last image. We're going to use that. I'm going to use it uncropped because I already cropped it. So there are two categories when you come in here. If you look at the bottom, on the left are textures, which are the groups you're seeing here now. And then on the right are formulas, which are presets, basically. So you could go into a category and choose a preset if you wanted to, or you can, add layers individually. And you can actually add layers in this program, which is pretty cool. So first we're going to go X out of here. Yes, I want to start over. Oops, I didn't want to start that far. Okay, there's the image. So use that uncropped. Okay, so we're going to go in here and I'm going to go to Landscape Enhance. And I'm going to use this one called Vignette. And it's just going to add a slight vignette to the image. And over on the right-hand side, this white slider controls the opacity of that layer. So I'm going to bring it, maybe about there. I like that. So this is layer 1. You can see in the lower corner of the picture, there's a number 1. If I hit this plus sign under the photo, and I can choose another category, let's try grunge. So you can see it says layer 2 created. So it automatically adds, you know, the first one of that category, but you can go through and choose, you know, try the different textures in here and find one you like. And this is where I like to just play and find what I like. Like I said, sometimes I have an idea, if, you know I want to go grungy with something, then I kind of know what I'm looking for. But every now and then you'll click on something and you go, oh, I really like that. And it wasn't what you were really planning on, but sometimes those happy accidents like that. I wouldn't think that color would look good on there, but that's not so bad. Maybe lower the opacity a little bit. And there you have it. And then it also has sliders. So you can come in and also make other changes to exposure and contrast and other things. So there's lots of things you can do in this program. And I play with it now and then, but I haven't even gone as deep in it as you can. Just, I don't have enough hours in the day, but it's a lot of fun to play and learn with these different programs. And again, to save it, just hit in the upper right, the up arrow, and save image. You can also save the formula if you've added different things that you like. It gave you that option to save the formula as well. So now that I've saved this, I could even come in and switch over to formulas, which is this little like beaker looking thing on the right hand side above the textures, and that will take you into the formulas, and then you could add something else. You can either remove the edits, or you can, you know, flatten it first and then add another edit. So we could, yeah, let's say no. Well, let's say yes. So it'll take off those last couple we added, and then it would let us go in and choose, you know, different formulas in the category. Obviously, those aren't the most attractive for this image, but again, it's playing around and then trying different things. Sound good? It's a fun little app. Not so little though, it actually does quite a bit. So yes, we're gonna start over. So we're gonna get out of that one. So I want to show you the power line removal in that Retouch app. So we're gonna go back to Retouch. I'm going to use a different image. And we're going to use, where's my power? This one. I love this shot. It's a great place near us. It's one of the stops on my workshops I do. I call them Barns and Backroads. It's 3-day workshops down here in Tennessee. We're in the northeast corner of Tennessee. So we're like an hour and a half north of Gatlinburg. So we're not too far from the Smokies, which is why we wanted to be over here. So with this one, obviously we've got lots of power lines here. So we're going to click on the icon for lines. And then and this is new too. They've added these tutorials. So if you're not sure how to use the various things, you can do that. So I'm going to click on line, this first one, and I'm just going to run my cursor close to that line. You don't have to be exactly on it. And as soon as I let go, it finds that line and bye-bye. So I think this is like the coolest thing in the world, that it's that smart to find these lines and get rid of them. Sometimes when you have two together, you may have to go over it a couple times just because they're so close together. And then we can get rid of the pole. We'll go back to our object remover. And there you have it. Then we can come back into lines. There's, zoom in a little bit. We have a couple faint ones here. Oops, that grabbed a little too much. Let's undo that step up top. That's new too. Okay. So we get rid of that one. So again, you do have to sometimes, you know, test these a little bit. So we're gonna go back to lines. I'm gonna try the segment. And what that will let you do is choose, oops, just a little piece of the line at a time. And sometimes that works better. So like, even in Photoshop, sometimes you have to go over things more than once and just kind of give it a try. It doesn't want to get that corner this time. So you get the idea. So you can go through and get rid of all those, and it will even usually work on that. So it does a really, really good job. And it messed up a little bit there. So we undo it and try again. But it's a great app and it's really fun. So that's how you get rid of power lines. So I'm not going to save this one because I have it saved. We're going to come back into Snapseed. And I'm going to open that same image. And we'll pretend the lines are gone. We'll work with this one. I just wanted to show you the perspective correction that this one has. So we're going to go into our tools and there's perspective. And this will let you straighten your buildings a little bit. And you just grab the points and you can pull them independently. Kind of tweak it. And there you have it. So that works really well in here as well. Any questions on that?
Meredith, I don't have a question on that particular one, but I do have one quick thing because the question did come up. Can you, as you're making adjustments, and so on one of yours, you said, yes, you wanted to flatten the image. So
Yes.
like in Photoshop, once you do that, you can't go back and adjust any of the adjustments you had made or anything else. It just turns it into one flat image. Is there a way in these, let's say, yeah, you're pretty sure this one's permanent, you want to put your watermark on it and all of that, that you can duplicate your image so you always have one where you could go back and adjust? I do that in Photoshop sometimes before I flatten layers or anything like that so that I don't lose what I did. Can you do that in these apps?
Some of them you can. It depends on the app. Some, even though you're not saving it over your original, they don't all save layers the way Photoshop will. So it's not like you can save it as a TIFF file and then come back and edit it more. Most of these apps don't have that capability unless you're using like the Photoshop for the iPad or iPhone.
Right.
So you do have to pretty make sure it's what you want, but you can open something up again and then do something else to it. So that's why I like to, usually I'll start, with an image like this, I would remove the power lines, straighten it, and then I would do like my basic adjustments in Snapseed, like in here, and then save that version.
Gotcha.
And then I can take that version and try various programs with it. I could take it into distressed effects, or I could take it into Mextures or something else and still have this edited version saved.
Great. So you can always get back to that if you wanted to.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So you do have to save a few more versions, doing the phone and iPad rather than, necessarily on a computer. But storage is, pretty, I mean, we can do a lot on our phones with, my iPad shut off. I just have to.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
And Hazel,
so
I had another question.
Oh, sure.
When you said that you photographed things, say like scrapbook papers, and then you used them for overlays or textures, are you photographing those papers with your cell phone, or do you do that with a regular camera?
Most of them I've done with a camera because I've like set up things where I've done a bunch of them at once. Like I have one of those like the trifold foam core boards like they use for school projects, you know, that has like the 3 sides. If you take one of those and stand it up, and then you can clip your texture with, you know, like binder clips or clothespins to the top
Right.
of it. And then that way you're shooting straight at it without having to shoot straight down. Sometimes it's easier to do that. So I will set up a board. I've done that in my kitchen, and I've done it at different conferences I've taught at. So people could to do some too. I did it at one of Mike Moats' conferences that I taught at. So you can just, you know, photograph, and I'll do that with my camera generally. I have done a few with the phone, but most of them I've done with my camera. And then again, you can just, you know, email them to yourself and add them to your phone. Or if you know you want to use them on the phone, then you could do some phone shots too. So
Thank you.
Hey, Meredith, one other quick thing here too.
Sure.
As you go along, there are quite a few people here that do use Android. Not everybody's using an iPhone. And just kind of maybe help people understand which Android app is going to be similar to the ones you're using, if it's an iPhone only app, that type of thing, so that people can kind of know which they can use.
Some I haven't found anything that was really exactly like it. Like I said, when I get to the last bunch that I'm going to do, these Gypsy Pics companies ones, they've got a ton of different ones that do a lot of the creative things. And like I said, out of, I think I have like 14 of them. I think there's like, I've got probably most of them at this point. And I think all but 1 or 2 are available for Androids. So you can get real creative with those, and you can like do something in one, save it, bring it into a different one, and add some other features. My husband does, like, he has an Android, and we have looked for some things that are similar, but some just don't really have the same functionality as the ones for Apple. You know, I haven't really found a good equivalent, like for distressed effects. That one's pretty unique, and it really doesn't have anything like that on an Android. That's one of the reasons I switched to iPhone. I always had an Android too, and then when I got the iPad, I think I've had this one about 5 or 6 years, and I got it because I wanted to do some stuff with Procreate, which is another iPad app. Yeah, and so then the next year, I think my phone was dying. So I said, well, if I need to get a new phone, I might as well get an iPhone to go with the iPad. And that's how I ended up with the iPhone. And getting into this creative stuff, I'm glad that I did, just because it can do so much in that aspect.
When you use your iPad, do you use a stylus most of the time?
Generally, yes. Yeah, I have, this one is just, it was a pen, the company I used to work for, that's got the little rubber tip on the end. Where'd that come from?
That's what I've got. Yeah. Pen with the tip on the end. Thanks.
Or you can use an Apple pen too. I have one of those too, but they run out of charge really fast, so I don't use that all the time. A lot of times I use the iPad. I'm watching TV, and I'll sit and play games, or do one of the coloring apps or something like that. And this kind of a stylus works fine for that. The Apple one is good when you want to get in, like doing these power lines, and you want to really get into the detail. Has that finer point, so that definitely makes it better for that.
Okay,
so let's see, what do we want to do next? So I'm going to show you another app. This one they actually changed. It used to be called Pixelmatic, and now it's just Pixlr. And this is available on an Android. It's Pixlr. It'll be on that list I send you. It's this 3rd row, second from the right, with the kind of the phone app, or the camera kind of looking thing. Why are there scribbles on my screen? That's weird. Yes. Alrighty. I don't know why those blue lines are up there. That's weird. Not sure where those came from. So in here, this is another very creative one. So I'm going to go into photos. Go to my album. And we're going to go over here. And I choose, I was going with the same image. So we're going to use this one, even though it's not really edited. And I'm going to go into the presets. On the bottom, we have different icons. We have the left one gives you some basic fixes. You can crop and rotate. You can do double exposures in here, which I haven't tried yet, but that's kind of a cool thing to do. Adjustments, auto fix. There's some auto things. You can blur, smooth, sharpen, splash, heal. And then the second one gives you brightening, darkening, pixelate, doodle with brushes.
Excuse me, Meredith, one sec here. I'm sorry. You guys, I'm going down the list and I can't tell who it is, but somebody is.
Jerry,
Somebody,
please
we're hearing,
mute.
just a second. We're hearing
Christy
your
Newland.
or your sound, whoever it is. Is it
Where do I do that?
Jerry, please, could you turn yourself on mute? I'm not seeing it here.
Just a minute.
Okay, we okay? All right, I'm sorry about that. I
That's
just wanted
okay.
to make sure that
I know
you
it happens.
weren't interrupted. Yeah, there you go. All right, cool.
Okay. So when you hit this center icon, the one that looks like kind of a Christmas tree topper, a little star, this opens up a whole bunch of presets in here. And there are some really cool ones. So some will be kind of like, you know, a little more, shall we say, normal. Somebody's dog is barking.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, is that you? So some are, you know, just kind of give you different effects, and then you get into the really creative, like the duo tones. So again, you just kind of go through. There is a pretty extensive list. They're all named after people. So there's lots of neat things in here. I wanted to show you this one because there's some really cool things in here. I'm going to go with Sophia. So this one added a little bit of a vignette. Again, you can use this bottom slider to bring back the opacity of the effect if you want to lessen it a little bit. Hit the check mark. And then the fourth icon is frames that you can add. Actually, I take that back. These are textures that you can add. And then the last one, no, I'll take that back. This one's, we don't want to do type. Let's X out of there. This one is frames. So there are some borders, but some are kind of like textures in the middle as well. And I'm going to use the grunge white. If I find it. Let's go with.
Hazel, what was the name of this app?
This one is Pixlr, Pixlr.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How much is this app?
This one is free.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Even better. And it's available for Android too. So there you go. So this is a good one for everybody to get because it's free and try it. And there's some very creative frames, obviously. There's some that are going to give you that kind of grunge look. You know, there's just a lot of different things. Like some are more borders, some are more textury as well. Some are ones I'd probably never use, but you never say never because you never know what you might come up with, right? Yeah, it's just simple, you know, black and white borders, soft borders. So I'm going to go back to, you know, that one's kind of, it's a little heavy, but again, we could bring back the opacity if you just want to give it like a shadow. You can do that as well. So there's lots of things in this app, and because it's free, it's a good one to grab. And then I would take this back into Distressed Effects and add some birds because I like adding birds to some of these images. It gives them a little extra pop. Alrighty, so I'm not gonna save this one. So now I want to get into Gypsy Pics. So this one, I have its own folder because I do have so many of their apps. So I have now 17 apps. The thing with this company that I really like, most of their apps are $1.99 or $2.99. Most are $1.99. There's only a few that are more. They also make apps for the computer. So like Grunge-tastic, I have on my desktop. Their desktop ones sell around $10. But the thing is, if you get one or two of their phone apps, and there's a, if you go on their website, you can sign up for emails from them. And once you have products, they've done this now 3 years in a row. At the holiday time, they've done like a 12 days of Christmas, and they've done some free apps on the phone, and they have done some that are like half price or so on the computer. So one of the like $10 ones you might get for $5, or some do sell for more, you know, that are like $29 or $39 that are really involved. And then you can, you know, they'll do them at a much lower price. But if you're signed up for their emails, then you'll find out when this kind of stuff is going on. The first virtual conference we did last year in February, I was using some of their products in a session similar to this, and they gave me a code so that everybody could get the Grunge-tastic for their computers for free who attended our conference. So that was pretty cool too. So anyway, so my point is to sign up for their emails, because you can get some freebies. I did not purchase all of these apps. A lot of these I got for free over the last few years. So my favorite ones, I kind of have these in order of the way I really like to use them. So Grunge-tastic is one of my favorites, and Vintage Scene, because those are a lot of textures. Impresso is like impression and Topaz, if you use Topaz at all, like the impressionistic painting. Aquarella is watercolor painting. Dramatic is their black and white, which I'm going to show you. Simply HDR. NAR colors like an infrared. And then there's Portrait Painter. You can add rain with rainy days. There's Rip Pics, or it's like the torn paper edges. Panographic, Moku Hanga, Chalk, all these others I don't use as much. And this spectral art is like glow in Topaz, if you are a Topaz user. So I'm going to show you a couple of my favorites out of all of these. I'm going to start with Vintage Scene. And the good thing about theirs is they all have this same interface. So it makes it really easy to use them, because they all work pretty much the same way. So once we get in here, I'm going to go to the bottom and click Get Photo. Go to my album. And I'm going to choose my barn, but I want to use a different barn. I have so many barns. We have so many barns down here. That's why we do the workshops. Let's use this one. It's one of my favorite barns. Obviously, that's not the preset I would want. It just opens one randomly when you first open your picture. So down on the bottom, you'll see on this white kind of banner. Right now, we're on the home screen. If you click the star, that shows you all of the presets. So this one has 3 groups. It has vintage scene, which is highlighted right now, antique photo, and faded time. And each one of those has a bunch of presets. So in vintage scene, I'm going to use, you can see there are, come on. Antique photo, antique photo 7. And I'm not sure I like that one on this barn. So let's choose a different one that's not quite so dark. Let's go with that. And then next to the star, you have like the little bulleted points, and that will let you make adjustments to this preset. So you can adjust the age of the image, which also you can also choose a different color. You can have the image strength be higher, you can enhance the image a little bit more. So I'm going to choose the color, and that's the color it chose. So let's go with something a little bit lighter, maybe more in the brownish tones. So we'll choose that color. So you can go in and change all these different things. And then this kind of checkerboard one lets you change the paper age that it's like the paper which is it's on. You can change again the color. You can go strong or you could go normal, so that would brighten it up a little bit more. And then the last one is the frames, and it came with this particular one, but you can change that. So you can go in here and you can choose, let's try something. So you can see there's like a crinkly paper. And there's a bunch of different things from very subtle to much more dramatic. So you can choose something a little bit lighter, and then the borders, you could have no border if you wanted to, or you can try some different borders that are less harsh. It kind of gives it that, you know, old, almost a Polaroid type of a look. So that is vintage scene. The other really cool thing that all of their apps have, if you just want to, you know, you're sitting and watching TV and you want to play, up in the upper right corner, you see the little pair of dice. That just means you click that and it's going to randomly choose a preset. And you could just keep clicking those little dice and it's just going to keep trying different things. So it's kind of a fun way to, it's, you know, roll the dice and see what you get. That one's pretty ugly. That one's not bad. The thing is, if you find something you like, save it, because you'll probably never get back to that one again. And you'd be trying to figure out which one it is in the actual presets. But you know, if you find something, just save it as a version and then you can keep playing. So that's another kind of cool feature that all their apps have. And from there, to save it, you'll go back to the home icon and then you can save it. And it does not save over your original. So that one is vintage. So let's go to Grunge-tastic because this is my favorite.
Hazel, you said that when you could use these on your computer also, would you have to have an Apple?
No, the computer ones are PC. I have a PC. I don't use Apple computers. And they are available for both. Yes, the computer
So you would
ones are
just
for
go
both.
into the Gypsy Pics Apple?
Yeah, you would go to their website,
Okay.
gypsypics.com, and you can, you know, find there's several pages there of, you know, different things. The phone apps you would get through your app store, but the
Yes.
computer ones you purchase on the website.
By the way, I'm a longtime follower of yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Much appreciated. All right, so let's grab a photo. I'm gonna try, let's go to the album here. And let's pick something we haven't done yet. Let's use these bottles. So this was just something I did at a setup at a conference. Again, it just randomly picks something when you first open it. So each of these apps, these icons might be slightly different depending on what the app does. So this one has fairly the same one. So the star is going to always take you to the different categories. And this one's got a lot more. You see it's got pop grunge, bleached, grunge, distressed, gritty, worn, and worn pop. Probably grunge and distressed, maybe gritty are the ones that I use most often, that are more like the textures that I like to use. And again, you just can sit here and just kind of click through and see which one you like, and then you can tweak it a little bit. And it's a fun way to play and be creative with your images. And then that's actually not bad. That's kind of cool. So let's go with the lighter brown. If you go to the next icon, which is like the palette, that lets you control the tones and a saturation of the color it's adding, and then the black threshold, enhance the contrast. And then this one's got 2 of the checkerboard things. It's got the 2 different textures. So this one's the first texture it's added, and then there's a second texture on here, and then you have the frames as well. And you can go through and pick borders like with the other, and they're different ones, but there's some cool stuff in here. And again, you could bring the strength back so it's not so overpowering. You don't have blending modes with these the way that you would on a computer, but you can control the opacity. So that's another way you can kind of play around with these. But this one's got so many cool different presets in here. I love playing with this one. So this is another of my favorites. And then the last one is the paper texture. So you can, again, change the color and the strength of the paper that it's on. So those are other options here as well. So let's go to Impresso. So you can see a lot of these can do things similar to like the distressed effects. It's not exactly the same, but you can definitely get some of the, the grunge texture type of looks like you can with that. So in here, I'm going to do this dogwood. So I'm going to, again, it's already on that first group, which is Alla Prima. And I'm going to choose the one called Mottled Light. And this is the one that's the painterly look. And then the next one lets you control the brush itself that it's using. You can adjust the brush size and the depth to make the paint look thicker. You can enhance colors. The edge here, you can adjust the width of the edge around the canvas. Then the this one is like the artistic finish, again, like the paper that it's on. And the canvas style itself, you can do canvas or linen. I'm going to use canvas. I'm going to up that a little bit so you can see a little more of that. So you can do something that looks like a real nice painting with this app. And it's all just a matter of jumping in and kind of playing around. And this last icon lets you add detail in some areas. You can adjust this oval shape and drag it around and add more detail in certain areas if you want.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you ever print your photographs, your images at all?
I do sometimes.
And what size?
I like to do canvas prints. We have a bunch of them around the house, and I usually do 16 by 20s for the most part.
Do you do an interpolation in that in like Topaz, like bigger it, what they call that, resize it?
Yeah, with Gigapixel.
Yes.
If I were using a phone app, I would definitely use Gigapixel to resize it. If it's from my computer, from my camera, I can, yeah, it's typically big enough that I can size it without issue. But yes, I use Gigapixel a lot for resizing. And a lot of times, like, I don't know if you get my blog at all. On Sundays, I do free textures. It's called the Sunday Sampler.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ones that I did this past Sunday, actually that was yesterday, the days go by so fast. were images I photographed, but they were like a small part of an image. So they were like maybe, 4 or 5 inches across. And I like to make my textures like 10 by 15 or 15 by 15. So I took those very small images that I cropped and ran them through Gigapixel to make them larger and usable as textures. So I probably use Gigapixel more than some people because I do use it for my textures. So yeah, Gigapixel is great for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's definitely another one of their fun apps that I do use on occasion. And so let's go
Hazel,
back.
I've used the Impresso Pro for
Mhm.
maybe 4 or 5 years, and it really has a lot more options in it. I don't know
I
if you
think I
use
have that one too.
or
in
not.
here.
Yeah, it's a more, I think
I
it's a more
do.
expensive version of the program, but definitely has more options in
And this
it.
one wants to go
I mean, you
sideways.
come up with some pretty fantastic stuff that
Yeah.
looks very impressionistic. It's the closest I've ever found any programs to trying to assimilate it. I mean, you're not going to be Monet or Renoir by the time you're done, but
Exactly.
it's amazing what you can do. And I think you also get another appreciation of their talents too, because of
Yes.
all the options. You have bristle strength and the whole bit, like you were
Yes,
talking about.
you're correct.
It's
This one does have a lot more
phenomenal
features.
what they did,
Mhm.
but without the option of a slider and
I
deleting.
know. I know.
Oh.
I'm definitely not a painter. So yeah, so having something like this is great. And another thing that I do on the computer, which you could also do in here, is I like to take my textures. Sometimes I'll create or something I'll photograph, say, and I've done this, do this example in my texture seminar, a picture of rusty metal, like peeling paint on a car. And I've taken it into Topaz Studio and run it through their impression. And it looks nothing like rusted metal anymore. It looks like this like you just had brush strokes going across the canvas. And you could even do that in here, photograph something and then bring it in here and create a new texture out of it. And it's your texture because you photographed it, you modified it. So if you're putting it in competition, you should always make sure it's your texture. For most groups don't allow, third-party textures. I know PSA and most of the local, regional conferences groups don't. So that's another way you can photograph textures and then modify them more, is by bringing them into a program like this and playing around with it. But yeah, you can see this one's definitely got some extra functions that the other one doesn't. It also opens in a horizontal format because it does have so many adjustments over here on the right-hand side. But that's just aged paint light. Over here on the bottom, aged paint dark. Which will probably be too dark for this. Yeah, a little bit. But again, yes, there are a lot more presets and a lot more adjustments you can make. I don't remember the cost of these. I want to say the pro ones are probably around $10. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look again.
The one I have is for the computer, and I think it was $30, $40.
Yeah, the computer ones are.
Yeah, but it's been great. I've done hundreds of photos through it just to get a feel for what it's like, what works and what doesn't. And yeah, this one just has so much more. So the pro version of it just has so many options, and it seems like they only put the best options in the pro version. So
well, that's why it's the pro version, because they're giving you a whole lot more to play around with, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they have that in a couple of theirs. Let me go back to my main screen here. So Impresso, Pastello, this photo formation, and this is kind of a funky one I don't really use a whole lot, but it can do like the folded paper type of effects and that kind of a thing. It's just pick an image, pick one we worked on. And you can do these, different kinds of things, and you can drop in a background here. But there's all different kind of cool things in here. This I know was one I got for free during one of their holiday promotions. I think all of the pro ones I got for free. But there's some cool stuff. Again, it's something fun to play with. It's one of those great things when you're sitting and watching TV and you want to just, play. I do that quite often. And then I do want to show you the dramatic, which is what I've switched to for black and white. There was an app I was using. It was called Carbon. And you could download a trial, but you had very limited functionality. And then to purchase it, it was $19.99. I'm like, well, it's a little bit much, but I'm going to go ahead and get it. Well, what I didn't pay attention to is that is not a one-time price. That is a yearly price. And after a year, when I wanted to renew it, they wanted me to renew it. It was $21.99. I'm like, no, I don't use it enough to justify that, with all of the other apps that are out there. So I've tried a few black and white ones, and I really did like that one because it had some really great features, but I just couldn't justify that for a phone app. So I did start trying this one more, and I'll open up an image. And again, this is, it's Gypsy Pics, so it's not that expensive. And here's this image. And again, it's going to open up to, let's turn that off for now. Go into our home screen and go in here. So we have black and white, dramatic black and white, and some infrared options, which for this image isn't going to work very well. But I went into the black and white and I liked this one. I was going for kind of an old time feel black and white when I was doing this image. And this circle lets you, if you come to the last icon, they call it a spotlight, and you can use it to, to make changes in one area. If you were depending on the, let's see. So if we move the slider, let's see what it does. That one. Yeah, so it's darkening outside. It's kind of giving you a vignette. They call it a spotlight. So I guess you could do that with this if you wanted to, and you can go beyond the image. So you can see it's just kind of focusing, like a vignette, but like with most vignettes, you'd want to keep it fairly light. And then you can go in and adjust your preset. You can change the tone. So this one has a little bit of a green tone. You could kind of give it a little bit of like a sepia type of a look. Let's see if we can do that with this. So you can tone it. So you're not limited to just a black and white. You can do a sepia or a blue tone or any tone that you want. Might go more brown. Maybe just a little bit lighter brown. So you can definitely, replicate that kind of a look as well. And you can sharpen more, soften more. You can add some more contrast. You can brighten, darken. This was a nighttime shot. And then if you go to this one, you can control, you can add more grain or less grain, if you really want to give it an older kind of photo look. And then again, the spotlight. So there's, it's definitely got some flexibility in here as well. And you can replicate various looks. So for now, this is the best I've found for black and white. I have a few others on here, and they just are very limited in what they can do. I think it's too bad that one would just got a little too expensive. If that was like a one-time fee, I would say, yeah, $20, I spent it. But every year, I'm not doing enough of these to make it worth that for me. Yeah, a little bit like Silver FX Pro. Somebody commented in the box, Linda. Yes, very similar. This is the one called Dramatic in the Gypsy Pics apps, which gives you the black and white. Any other questions? I can show you one or two more if you want in here. I haven't used the HDR a whole lot. Oh, I want to show you. I'm gonna go over to the cameras we were talking about. So I'm gonna go back to my front page. And I got to find them on here because I know where they are on my phone. I don't usually shoot with my iPad. I think I have them saved in a folder. So I do have the Adobe apps here, but like I said, I really don't use them a whole lot. These are the other black and whites I have. They're okay, just not my favorites. Cameras, I know I've got an iPad. Oh, photo and video right on the front. So this is a really cool one, Hydra. I found this one watching a presentation by Charles Needle. So this is a camera app. So it's going to take a photo. So looking at my screen, and it will take 3 shots and merge them in camera. So if you click on, it's kind of hard to see at the bottom, it's HDR and you can set the megapixels. So this will take a 12 megapixel image. You can do video HDR. You can do low light, zoom, and high res, which is 32 megapixels. So that's the one I usually use. And then all you do is when you click the button, it's going to analyze it. Maybe. And did it take it? I don't think it did. Let's go into here. 32. Like I said, I don't usually use these on the iPad, so I'm used to how my phone works. Oh, it did, because there's the picture. So that's the photo that it took. So it, not the best location to be doing it, but it did take 3 images and merge them. So then you would just say done. And this also has a black and white option. I'm not seeing it on the iPad. Let's go with HDR. So I think the other one was just a high-res photo. Let's try this one. There we go. So it's going to analyze the light and it takes the shots and blends them for you. This is where you do the black and white. So then you have an option of black and white, medium HDR, or a strong HDR. Again, not the best option, but I have used this quite a bit with some of the barns we go to, and it comes out pretty cool. So I'm just gonna X out of there. So that's another neat app. And then Average Camera Pro is one that you can take multiple exposures and then rotate your phone. So let's see if I can find one of my images, because I can't really do that on here. Now I took some in one of our, I don't know if I have any in here. No. I don't want to take too much time, but I've done some with flowers when I was out with our groups. This is one of the, this is an HDR on this black and white one. That's when I use the Hydra on, because it's kind of backlit. We're usually here early in the morning. And this is one of our barn stops. Would have been after this. I don't know if I have it saved somewhere I can find it easily. But but that's a fun one. And it's, I don't know, it's a few dollars. It wasn't too expensive. That was another one that I saw Charles did a session for us in our virtual conference last summer. Our next one is coming up this coming June, so you can check my website for info on that. So again, that one is the Average Camera Pro that lets you take multiples. So those two I also like to use on my phone. And I think that's about it. Any other questions or? Yes, the Apple, the Average Camera Pro and Hydra. I know our Apple, I'm not sure if they're available on Android. I know Android has another app my husband used to have that did multiple shots, and I don't remember the name of it because that was a while ago. But there are other similar things to the multiple exposure one.
Hazel, how about iPhone camera software? What comes with the iPhone, of course, is extremely simplistic, and they have much more sophisticated apps out there by third parties. Is there anything in particular that you use with the iPhone, additional software that you feel is worthwhile?
I usually, I have used just the regular editing app that comes with the iPhone. It just like when you're looking at I have it on my home screen, but it's, I think when you go into photos, let's see.
I was thinking
Yeah,
more
you
about
just go to
capture
edit.
apps where you could set your aperture and have a focal length set, have shutter speeds, the whole bit. I know they're manufactured. I just don't know if there's anything special out there it's worth looking at.
This is one that I learned from a friend of mine that I use sometimes. It's, let me go back to the beginning. All right. Jeez Louise. Ask you 20 questions to use it because I don't use these on the iPad. The 645 Pro, this one, when you open it, it will be like using a regular camera where you can set, manual aperture priority, shutter priority. You can change the white balance, your autofocus points, your ISO over here on the left. You can change those things. So this one is probably the closest I've seen that's kind of like using a regular camera if you really want to, play around with real settings. So this would be a good app. I don't remember how much this was. I've had it a long time, probably a few dollars. Most apps are not all that expensive.
Is this something that you use regularly, or do you just simply, when you're using the iPhone, you just simply use the simple software that's with it?
I haven't used this one as much lately because I have some of those others that I've been playing with, but I was using this pretty regularly for a long time.
Okay.
And you can see it if you have it on auto, it's changing the ISO and the shutter speed and stuff right there on the screen. So then you could always, you can go into ISO and change it, or you can shoot full manual just like a camera. It's just a matter of figuring out all the little controls, just like a camera.
As somebody mentioned, and it was Linda, and I've used it before too, Lightroom Mobile also lets you go completely manual. And so would there be any difference in using an app like this, or if you're a Lightroom subscriber using Lightroom Mobile? Because it's 100% manual that you can go in there.
It's probably pretty similar. Like I said, I haven't really used the Lightroom that much as a camera. I probably should. I can say I was doing some fun stuff in there. Yeah, I would think that you probably could, do a lot of the same things.
In this app?
If you have the Lightroom one, I would definitely check that out first. If you have it anyway, why not give that a shot? And then you can always look at the other apps afterwards if you needed to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, lag time there, catching up on my screen. Anybody else? My camera is doing things all by itself, which are not on my iPad. It's like, okay, that's.
Hazel, I owe you an
weird.
apology. All evening long, I've been calling you Meredith. So
Oh, everybody
can-
does it. So I don't even bother correcting people
you've
anymore.
got
It's
two,
like,
yeah, you've
whatever.
got two first names. So
I do. And
you
with
can
my
just-
business being Meredith Images, people do it all
I
the time.
apologize. Please accept my apology. And
Oh,
you can
that's
just call me Winters. That's okay. Just say, hey, Winters.
I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to share my computer screen for just a moment, and then I'll let you guys, I don't want to leave the meeting. Share my screen. And I've got wow, definitely some lag time going on. Oh, I guess I have to stop sharing my iPad. I'm like, why is that still up there? Let's stop the mirroring. There we go. All right, so I just wanted to show you that again. So these are the ones we've gone over tonight. And again, I'll send this list over so that it can be distributed or posted or however you guys want to do it.
Just send it to, excuse me, just send it to me, Hazel.
Okay, I will do that. And then I'll send you some of my contact info. And if you guys want to join me next week for a webinar, just check out my website, meredithimages.com. That'll be on the contact sheet too. But that, yeah, I'll type it in here. Somebody just asked. Get my keyboard back over here. I'm expecting my site to be down a little bit overnight tonight because we're changing my web host. So, and the gentleman doing it is in Australia. So he's doing it tomorrow morning, but it'll be tonight, my time. So that's my website. And there's, a page for webinars, our virtual conferences. My store is on there if you want to check out any of my textures. I do have 2 ebooks I've written on working with textures, and my course, and there's all kinds of stuff there. And sign up for my blog, because I blog 3 times a week. Like I said, that you can link through the website to that. On Sundays, I do the free textures, and then I blog on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on Tuesdays, I call it Around the Web. I share articles and freebies and things that I find. And Thursdays, I've changed to kind of a potpourri. It was Tutorial Thursday. Now it's Thursday Thoughts. It's some tutorials and then some other things. And then I always post info about current things going on. I am on YouTube. If you look up Meredith Images, I'm both on YouTube and Vimeo. All my webinars are there. And what I also do for my webinars, and I started doing this when I was doing the Topaz ones, I sell the notes for my webinars for usually when the webinar first comes out, I do them for like $5. And so you get the written notes of what I've done, and I give you the images and any textures or anything I used in the project so you can follow along with me. And I do that even in my ebook, so you get everything so you can actually practice what I'm showing you. So that's people like that to learn, and I keep the cost down. It helps pay for the Zoom webinar function because it's not a freebie. So it helps me cover that cost and keep doing these. And yeah, check them out. I've done a 21 webinars so far of my own. So there's lots of information there. And I'm always open to questions. So if you think of something later, feel free to email me or message me. I welcome hearing from everybody.
Thank you so much.
I can't turn my video on, but thank you so much, Hazel.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's amazing what you can do now.
There's a lot. There's
I mean,
a lot. I'm going to stop sharing so you guys can chat. You can do a lot, and that's really just scratching the surface. I mean, that was just a little taste of what all of those apps can do. There's a lot of features, and most of them, there's quite a bit of functionality. So it's definitely worth, getting to know them. I have so many apps on my phone. It's like, somebody shows you something, oh, that's really cool. Let me get that one. And then you use it a couple times and you forget about them. But they're all fun. So,
Anybody
all
else?
right.
Wonderful.
Well,
Thank you so much. It was a great presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me this evening. Glad you enjoyed it. And maybe next season I can do some texture stuff for you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Lots of great
On your list.
ideas.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody. Anybody else got anything? All right. Well, good night, everyone. It was good to see everybody.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Good night. See you soon.